Hey there guys, earlier I showed a turn 4 clear using Rikku against Dark Ruby Rose. It's relatively quick, it gets you a good score, it's up to 18 counters. Now for those of you that just want a good score without a lot of stress, that's the way to do it. It's 18 counters, it's very high damage. Now, for those of you that want to chase the best possible score you can and don't mind a lot more randomness, I'm going to now be showing the turn 6 clear. But I have to make it clear that it's a lot more RNG involved, and if that's not your cup of tea, stay with the turn 4 clear. The turn 4 clear is fine. But turn 6 gets you up to 20 counters. So it's going to definitely be a higher potential by going to turn 6. Also, we're going to be swapping to a Thunder party because Thunder has a 10% better field with Dagger and a 5% higher Imperil thanks to Rikku's innate 140 Thunder Imperil. So overall, Thunder is a little bit stronger than Water for this boss. Okay, so one of the big RNGs we need is we need both of the minions to be alive by turn 4. That's pretty random, and which is why it's really irritating because we're not only relying on one spawn RNG, we need both of the minions to spawn by turn 4. So I'm going to cut the video and I'm going to resume when the minions cooperate and spawn for me so I can demonstrate the clear. See you in a moment. Alright guys, let's give it a go. Now, we need one of the minions to spawn on turn 1. We don't really care which one spawns, but one of them needs to be spawning on turn 1. So we're going to use Sakura to field. We'll guard these, and then we can Shared Immunity Melissa and Watchful Ensemble on Rikku. So we need a minion to spawn, preferably the cat, but either one is just fine. There's the cat. So the reason I'm saying preferably the cat is a more rare spawn. So because he spawned on turn 1, there's a good chance turn 3 the skeleton will spawn. If the skeleton spawns on turn 1, it's totally fine. The cat can still spawn on turn 3. It's just more rare. But, you know, the cat on turn 1 is the best case scenario. Anyway, so on turn 2, we're going to use the weapon in peril from Wilk, either Hurricane Fist or Quake Blade, depending on your preference of axe or fist. I recommend the fist, but the axe can be more damage at the cost of even more RNG. So we're going to use that on the boss. Now the rest of the party can just either guard or repeat. So we're going to guard Rikku, Dagger, and Sakura, and we're going to repeat Rivera and Melissa. Okay, so turn 2 is going to be the Wind and Thunder attack, magic, and then a magic dark attack from the cat. But we're immune to dark as well from the gear we're using. Now, starting on turn 3 and every turn from that point forward, you got to deal dark damage to the boss for the strategy. You don't have to, but for the strategy we're using, you have to deal dark damage every turn. Rikku is using a dark weapon in the base form, so we're going to use Crackdown on the boss. That's a single target attack. Do not use AoE attacks. We don't want to deal any damage to the minions if we don't have to. Now, Wilk can just guard on this turn. So can Sakura. We can reload Melissa and Rivera. Now, the cat is going to do Graviga every odd turn, not counting the turn he gets spawned on. So, on turn 3, the cat is going to Graviga. You can either Nethicite it if you own it, or you can just summon Carbuncle, and Carbuncle will reflect. So Carbuncle is the easier way to do it. That'll bounce Graviga, and you won't take any damage on turn 3. So, there we go. And then some attacks, not really worried about it. Okay, unfortunately, the boss did not summon the skeleton on turn 3. You know, here's the RNG I'm talking about. You need both the minions alive by turn 4. If by turn 4, both the minions are not still there, it's time to retreat and come back in. So I'm going to cut the video, and we're going to resume when the boss cooperates and summons both of the minions by turn 4. So see you in just a second. Okay guys, let's resume. The boss just summoned the second minion on turn 3. So now turn 4, we've got both the minions alive. This is what you want going forward with the clear. So On turn 4, we are now going to use the base form LB of Rikku. That's going to deal darkness damage to the boss because of the weapon. It's also going to give her a modifier buff. You want to do this as the first action. Now, as long as you're doing things in the same order as me, this should not kill anyone. As you see, the cat took 63 damage. Even if your Rikku is EX3, assuming you're gearing the same way as I am, you should not kill the cat with that LB. So, that's good to go. The cat has 37 HP left, which is fine. He's not going to take any more damage the rest of the clear until the kill turn. Now, after Rikku has done her LB, we're now going to use Wilk to use Numbing Thunderbind. This is going to be an AoE 85 break and a 130 Thunder Imperil for the enemies, which is going to help our damage. If you don't have Edge's TMR, I'll talk about that more during the gearing section. Melissa and Rivera can just reload. This turn, Dagger is going to summon the Ramu field. Make sure you summon that after Rikku does her LB, otherwise she might kill the cat. And Sakura is going to do a Thunder Amplify on Rikku, the big Amplify. That way it'll auto-cast and be ready to go by turn 6. So this turn, there's no Graviga, just dark damage and physical damage. We're covering the physical, we're immune to the darkness. Okay, on turn 5. Now, at this point, Rikku has an all-element Imperil. On turn 6, we do not want that because that would cause her to take excessive damage, and we'd fail the score. So, what we're going to do, we're going to use Sakura's LB, base form LB, to cure the Imperils. Do that as the first action in the turn. Now, we're going to use Rikku to triple. We're going to use Unhinge on the boss. This is a 140 Lightning Imperil, which is going to be good for the kill turn. And then we're going to double Crackdown to deal single target dark damage to the boss. Don't use AoE. We don't want to kill the minions. It's getting miraged. That's okay. Now, after that, Wilk is going to use his 90 break on the boss. Melissa can just reload and do her shared immunity. Rivera, before Dagger, do this before Dagger. Rivera is now going to use the Fire Spell. This is from an item or an Esper. Just get the Fire Spell some kind of way. This is a single target 100 Fire Imperil. Now we need Rikku to be Fire Imperiled by the kill turn. I'll explain on turn 6, but she is no longer imperiled. So we're going to use Rivera to cast the fire. We're going to force target our Rikku, and we're going to imperil her to fire. And I'll explain why on turn 6. Now, turn 5 is going to be another Graviga. So you can either Nethicite or you can just Carbuncle. We're going to Carbuncle just to make it nice and safe. Carbuncle is a permanent source of reflection. There we go. And some attacks. And we got dispelled. This is why turn 6 is a little bit of a headache. We got completely dispelled on turn 5. We lost all our buffs. Now, Sakura did automatically cast a lightning amplify. So now we have a 100 thunder amplify. Also, we are still fire imperiled. Now, let's go ahead and shift Rikku on this turn. Now, the enemies all have a double stack of Mirage right now. They got that during turn 5. So what we're going to do, Rikku in the shift form as the first action this turn is going to triple. We're going to Shock Storm. This is going to put up a 25 Fist and Peril on the minions, again, to squeeze out every speck of damage. It's also going to get rid of one Mirage stack. Then we're going to Varja. That's going to get rid of the second Mirage stack, and it's going to Berserk Rikku, and then fill LB as the third action, because we don't want to actually hit anything for real this turn. Okay, all the Mirage is gone. All the enemies are imperiled. They are Fist imperiled. They're Thunder imperiled. They're broken. The boss has, as we can see here, the boss has a 90 defense break. He's at negative 190 lightning resist, etc. So let's also have Melissa on this turn. Remember, we got completely dispelled. So Melissa is going to rebuff us. We're going to shared immunity for the resistance buffs. We're going to human killer on Rikku for the killer. And we're going to seconds of support. Now that it's turn 6, even at EX0, this will now be available on turn 6. This is a 400% stat buff. So we're going to seconds of support on Rikku. So we're going to go ahead and do all of that. Now, I will show you Rikku. She's at 13,096 attack power. That EX2, it'd be a lot higher at EX3. But notice her resistances. So what the enemies are going to do on this turn. The skeleton is going to use 2 AoE physical dark attacks. We are not immune to darkness at the current time. The cat is going to use 1 AoE dark magic. The whole party is immune to darkness except for Rikku, who is not immune to darkness. That'll be another source of counter. The boss is going to use an AoE light element attack because we dealt dark damage, physical, and Riku's going to cover it. We are not immune to light element. The boss will also randomly either do nothing or she will use a single target physical attack on turn 6. It'll either be fire, wind, earth, or light element damage. So you want Rikku to be vulnerable to all of those. Notice how with the Melissa buffs, we have all of this, but if we did not have a 100 fire in peril, we would be immune to fire and potentially miss out on one of those counters. So you definitely want her to be fire imperiled, but you don't want her to be imperiled to the other elements because we don't want Rikku taking a lot of damage. So you want to be as close to 100, but still under 100 to fire, wind, earth, light, and darkness. And we are, so we're good to go. Now, we did get dispelled, and we don't have we have a thunder amplified, but we're not thunder imbued. Here's the thing. Do not use Riku's imbue. I'm sorry, Sakura's imbue. Sakura's imbue will make you immune to dark and earth, and that'll sabotage you. So instead, we're going to get we're going to get imbue from Dagger. Dagger is going to triple. We're going to use Peridot Thunder Flash on Rikku for the thunder imbue, and we're also going to do Protect and Shell +2 for mitigations to take less damage. We are going to be taking a little bit of damage this turn. Okay, Wilk can now target the boss and use his LB to put accuracy down to take even less damage. And Sakura, we still got to deal dark damage to the boss. So Sakura will deal dark damage with just a single target physical attack. Don't use her normal attack. Her normal attack is not an actual attack. Use an ability, give her an ability from a materia, whatever, and give her a dark weapon and deal dark damage to the boss. There we go. Now, Rivera is going to do Duet, and we're going to Watchful Ensemble our Rikku for physical cover. Remember, we got dispelled. And we're going to Choir Solo to Provoke. Okay, so again, there's going to be 3 AoE physicals, 2 from the skeleton, 1 from the boss. That's up to 18 counters. On turn 6, there is also going to be an AoE Dark Magic, which will hit Rikku once. That's 19 counters. And then potentially a single target elemental attack from the boss, and that'll be a 20 counter for a 139 point chain if we counter everything. So let's give it a go and see what kind of counter we get. But this is where the RNG comes in, how many times you counter. So we're looking for Marionette Slash. There it is. Marionette Sword Light was the single target attack. So we did get the single. Here's the Dartga, another attack. There we go. And now we counter. So up to 139. Also, we're countering on the minions as well. Double minions is extra damage. It's not a lot of damage, but it is bonus damage. So it's more damage than not doing it. So having both minions alive is pretty helpful. Now we're hoping the counters go all the way to 139. The higher the better. 118, unfortunate. So we missed, I think, 3 counters. 125, 132. Yeah, we missed 3 counters, so we got 17 out of 20 potential. So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to try a few times to get a nice, 125 or higher for the video. But yeah, that was the 19.8. We missed 3 counters. I'm going to run it a few more times, see if I can get a cool, high score run for the video. If not, I'll show you the gear in a second. So be right back. Alright guys, let's try another roll. I'm probably going to stop after this attempt. You know, it's a little irritating rolling for variance. There's the random target or the random single target attack. So you know, we have the potential to get a maximum roll here, but yeah, it's a little irritating sitting here fishing for a high roll for the video. I'll probably try it a little bit, you know, over the course of the week, but I don't want to sit here all night trying for like a 125 plus just for the video. It's possible that I'd be here for hours trying to get it. But yeah, 104, so, you know, it's just random. There's a maximum of 20 counters on that turn. So let's go ahead and show you the gear, and I'll talk about damage potential as well. I did some calculations, and I'll show you what this team could do depending on your gear and all that. So yeah, that was a bad roll, low roll, but this team goes up to 120 counters. So real quick, I am going to put on the screen some builds and calcs. So right here, these are the two builds that I have calculated. So the top build is my personal EX2 level 120 Rikku. And on the calculation, you can look at the bottom left. That's the calculations of if I got 20 counters, how much damage could I deal? So if I got all 20 counters on turn 6, my personal Rikku at EX2 level 120 would do between 20 to 27 billion damage. You know, 20 on the low end, 27 at perfect variance, more like an average of 23 billion at EX2. Now, the bottom Rikku in the picture is if you were at EX3 level 130, and the calculations for that are on the bottom right of the screen. You can see that at EX3 level 130 with the build I am showing you, you know, on the screen, that build would do a minimum of 25 billion and a maximum of 34 billion, an average of 29 billion if you got all 20 counters on turn 6, which is again very, very, very random. So if you're lucky enough to go all the way to a 139 count chain on turn 6, and you have an EX3 level 130 Rikku, you're going as high as like 34 billion damage. So pretty insane. So let's go ahead and show the team and the gear that I used, and the turn chart will be in the comments, and I'll talk about some swaps potentially, but it's pretty specific. Okay, so like I said at the beginning, Thunder is the way to go if you can. So Sakura and Dagger are the Thunder combo. Nicole and Ferris can work. It's slightly weaker, but you know, you can use them instead if you don't have these. So Sakura on the Ramuh Esper is just using a dark weapon, doesn't matter which one, a little bit of mana reduction, and the whole party needs 30 or better wind resist and 130 or better dark resist in the form that they're in for most of the turns, because we do get a 100 dark imperil that we don't cure in the party right away. So with Melissa's buff of 70%, we're at, there you go. Although I guess technically speaking, you could use Melissa's 200 buff and not worry about it for gear, but that would just involve more clicking. You know, I don't want to bother with that. Anyway, there's the build. And we gave her just a physical attack. You can use any physical attack you want. Magic Break. You could actually also use Bio from Ramuh. It's a magical single target dark attack, and Ramuh Esper can learn that. Just give her a way to deal dark damage on turn 6, but don't use AoE. So there's the build we used. Dagger is kind of whatever. Nethicite or enough Esper fill to summon the Esper gauge at will. 130 or better dark, 30 or better wind, and we're on the Carbuncle Esper. So if you don't have Nethicite, summoning Carbuncle on turns 3 and 5 is totally fine. That'll handle it for you. So there you go. Rivera is using the Wizard Staff. You can craft this. It gives her the Fire Spell. You could also get this from an Esper like Ifrit or whatever you want. Just give her the Fire Spell from some kind of way so she can do a 100 Fire Imperil on Rikku. Other than that, 30 wind, 130 or better dark, and whatever, some Esper fill. Who cares? I'll come back to Rikku. Wilk in the shift form is a lot of LB fill, 130 dark, 30 or better wind. We're using the fist build. You can go axe build if you want to. I'm not covering that in the video though. And then the Numbing Thunderbird to AoE Imperil to Thunder, as well as AoE Break. If you don't have this, you could use a different breaker materia. For example, like Light Breaker, Dark Breaker, Earth Breaker, one of the different ones. But we need an AoE break for the minions. Thunder is best because it'll give you a little bit of extra damage. If you don't have the Thunder Imperil, it's okay. Don't worry about it. The minions don't add that much damage. You can also use Burst with Sakura to AoE Imperil, but you gotta be careful because Burst is 16 hits, so that'll deal at a minimum 16 damage to the minions, and they only have 100 HP, and Rikku is going to deal between like 60 to 80 damage on herself, so you don't want to use Burst unless you absolutely have to, but it's an option. If you have Numbing Thunderbird, that's the way to go. A lot of LB fills so that we can get his LB good to go again for the final turn. So there we go, not using a card. And then Melissa is our Provoker. Really, anyone can be the Provoker. It doesn't really matter. There you go. The Provoker does need Death Immunity, though. So 130 Dark, and then 30 or better Wind. There we go. Kind of whatever other than that. And then Rikku, in the base form, is using a Dark Weapon. We're also full Evasion because we make her the tank. So full Evasion in the base form. And we gave her... This is actually technically not... This is actually not important because with the strategy we're using now... this is not important. You can remove that, and you can remove this. You don't need auto buffing because we are always keeping a buff up. We're doing Protect and Shell on turn 6, and we're doing 50% mitigation. Yeah, we always have mitigation. You don't need auto buffing. So there it is. Full Evasion, you actually don't need status immunity either, so that's not important. A Dark Weapon, but try to keep her attack power as low as you possibly can in the base form. It's not easy, because she does have a lot of attack power naturally, but as you can notice, none of the gear has attack power on it, except for Therian Scarf, whoops. But yeah, and then give her 130 Dark, and then 30 Wind. Because we don't want to kill the Tiger when we burst, and she has natural Beast Killer, so she's going to deal a lot of damage to the Tiger when it spawns, and she does her LB on turn 4, but you don't want to kill that Tiger. And then Shift Form is using Kanye West Fist. We're using... Now, I've gotten a lot of comments about the Rikku TMR. It turns out, based on my calculations, the TMR is actually slightly stronger than the Ruler's chest piece. So you'll have lower attack power, but the modifier buff makes up for it, because that double dips on her counter, and if you're countering 20 times, then 20 times 50 doubled for defensive nerf, so an extra 2,000 modifier does make up for the slight attack loss as opposed to the Ruler's chest. Orange Jug for more attack power, 1 copy of Blizzard Orb, and then a lot of counter sources. There we go, and then the Chain Cap card. So, okay, so there is the updated clear for Dark Ruby Rose. I think at this point, I have reached the pinnacle of what I can accomplish for a counter Rikku strat on this boss. I'm taking a break, so tomorrow at some point I will go back to the sub-bosses for some budget runs. But, yeah, and then probably like next week, I'll do a non-Rikku clear on this boss, but I need a break from this boss. You know, rolling counter chance, minion spawn chance, etc. has been a headache. So, there it is. Hope it helps. See you in a bit.